Intro visual. Hyper-fast, glitchy drones sweep over the Dubai Marina skyline at dusk. Heavy, metallic bass drop. Cut to a dramatic, low-angle shot, looking up at a fictional 90-story hyper-luxury monolith, the Al Qayan Imperial Tower. Sparks and structural warnings flash on screen. SFX. Kabul news ticker alarm. It was supposed to be the ultimate crown jewel of Dubai's billionaire row. A 90-story, $2 billion monument of sheer architectural arrogance piercing the desert sky. But tonight, it's a vertical disaster zone. Imagine paying $20 million for a penthouse in the sky, only to wake up to the sound of structural glass snapping like toothpicks. FX. Loud, shatting glass explosion in the dead of night. A massive, custom-engineered double-glazed facade panel, weighing over 400 pounds, rips completely free from the 82nd floor. It plummets over 1,000 feet through the desert air, obliterating a luxury yacht docked in the marina below. This isn't just a freak accident. It's a terrifying wake-up call for the most aggressive real estate market on Earth. The Al Qayan Imperial Tower had been open for less than 18 months. Clad in state-of-the-art, deep-tinted structural glass, it was engineered to project absolute power, wealth, and permanence. Instead, the developers treated the catastrophic failure as a one-off publicity nightmare. They hushed up the media, paid off the yacht owner, and left the remaining glass untouched. But behind the glitz and glamour, a fatal countdown had already begun. Over the next 3 years, extreme hyperheat expansion, intense coastal humidity, and shifting foundations on reclaimed land would transform this billionaire playground into a ticking time bomb, threatening to rain lethal shards of glass onto the crowded streets of Dubai. This is the untold story of when limitless ambition collides with brutal physics. Visual. Archival blueprints of the Al Qayan Imperial Tower flashing over a fast-paced montage of heavy desert construction. Cranes spinning under a blazing sun. Text overlay. 2018, the billionaire boom. The corporate pitch was simple. Create an architectural icon that would make every other high-rise and business bay look obsolete. The developers didn't want a standard tower. They demanded a towering monolith wrapped entirely in specialized, ultra-thin structural glass panels. They hired a world-renowned European starchitect to bring this hyper-luxury vision to life, to make the tower economically viable while achieving a seamless, mirror-like exterior. The engineering team made a critical gamble. They specified custom-manufactured, single-inch double-glazed panels. On paper, it was a masterstroke of modern engineering. Thinner glass meant a lighter load on the structural concrete core, massive savings on structural steel reinforcements, and a vastly reduced installation timeline. SFX. Drone whoosh, wind typhoon sounds. But the engineering models completely ignored how this ultra-thin skin would perform at altitude. Bolted to a swaying concrete frame in one of the harshest environments on the planet. Graphic animation. Timeline of the crisis: January 2021. Construction tops out at 90 stories. May 2022, the grand opening gala. 100% of luxury units sold out. August 2023, the first structural glass panel failure in the marina. November 2024. Forensic inspection reveals deep foundation settlement. The structural system utilized a high-strength concrete core with perimeter columns tied together by massive post-tension slabs. The glass went on like a taut, continuous skin, over 50,000 individual panels wrapping the tower. When it opened, it looked flawless, a shimmering silver blade cutting through the desert haze. But nobody had accounted for the terrifying reality of high-altitude thermal hysteresis, where the intense Arabian sun bakes the exterior glass face to over 160 degrees Fahrenheit, while the interior face is blasted by ice-cold luxury air conditioning. The glass wasn't just sitting there. It was actively tearing itself apart from the inside out. Visual. Intense, high-contrast thermal camera footage of a Dubai skyscraper. The exterior glows blindingly red and orange, while the interior shows a freezing blue. Text overlay. The thermal war zone. To understand why this billionaire playground is self-destructing, you have to look at the brutal science of the Arabian Gulf climate. This isn't just hot. It's a relentless environmental assault. In the peak of summer, ambient temperatures routinely smash past 115 degrees Fahrenheit. But on the sun-facing glass facade, Direct solar radiation jacks the surface temperature up to a blistering 165 degrees. Meanwhile, inside the penthouses, heavy-duty industrial chillers keep the air at a crisp 68 degrees. Graphic 3D cross-section of the double-glazed panel showing microscopic molecules expanding on one side and contracting on the other. This creates a violent temperature differential across a panel that is barely an inch thick. The outer pane expands rapidly under the desert sun, while the inner pane remains rigid. This triggers a phenomenon engineers call anisotropic thermal fatigue. In standard buildings, thick masonry or heavy structural aluminum framing absorbs this movement. But on the IMPERIAL Tower, the ultra-thin panels have no mass to distribute the stress. Every single day, the glass pulls outward like a sail under the intense heat. Every single night, it snaps back as the desert cools. Repeat this cycle hundreds of times a year, and the structural silicone sealant holding the glass to its aluminum frame begins to undergo chemical degradation, losing its elasticity. Compounding this thermal nightmare is the land itself. The tower sits on reclaimed coastal land along the Dubai Marina. Below the surface, the immense weight of the 90-story concrete monolith is causing uneven foundation settlement. As the building subtly tilts and sinks into the compressed sand, the rigid structural frame twists. The glass panels are being squeezed in a giant slow-motion vise. They are expanding from the heat, shaking from the high-altitude Gulf winds, and being crushed by the shifting foundations. By 2025, formal forensic inspections confirmed a terrifying reality. Over 25% of the facade had lost its structural integrity. The crown jewel of the skyline was literally shedding its skin. Visual. Low-light, cinematic handheld camera tracking through an ultra-luxurious, echoing penthouse corridor. Empty marble floors, flickering lights. Background sound of a low, metallic building hum and the distant hiss of wind. Behind the pristine, white-glove security desks of the Dubai Marina, a wall of silence was erected. But you cannot hide a crumbling 90-story skyscraper forever. Inside the tower, the illusion of hyper-luxury began to disintegrate for the international expats who called it home. Meet Michael, a British hedge fund manager who shelled out $8 million for a sweeping duplex on the 74th floor. For the first year, it was perfect. Then came the sounds. It started during the summer of 2024, he recalls in an anonymous online forum. In the middle of the night, you'd hear this deep metallic groan traveling through the walls. Then, a sound like a gunshot. Crack. You'd look at the floor-to-ceiling glass, and a hairline fracture would be snaking its way across the panoramic view. The building management told us it was just settling. They told us it was normal. It wasn't normal. It was the sound of structural glass under terminal velocity stress. Deep. Resonating in structural groan soon, the symptoms became impossible to ignore. Because of the foundation sinking and structural twisting, the high-speed elevators began malfunctioning, rubbing against their vertical shafts and shutting down entirely during high-wind days. Luxury apartments on the windward side started experiencing phantom drafts, followed by catastrophic humidity leaks. When the dense, salty morning fog rolled off the Arabian Gulf, it forced its way through the warped facade seals. Wallpapers worth thousands of dollars peeled away in damp strips. Hidden mold began festering behind imported Italian marble paneling. By early 2025, the panic went public. A prominent tech entrepreneur from South Africa woke up to find the outer pane of his master bedroom facade completely shattered, spiderwebbed into a million pieces, held together by nothing but a degrading laminate film. He evacuated his family that morning. Visual, fast, chaotic drone shots of the tower's exterior, zooming in on ugly temporary steel reinforcement brackets bolted directly across the shimmering glass facade. The developers had to act. But instead of fixing the root cause, they opted for a cheap, panicked Band-Aid. Teams of industrial abseilers dropped down the sides of the building, bolting heavy industrial steel brackets directly over the edges of the warping glass panels. The visual contrast was devastating. One of the most expensive addresses in Dubai, a tower meant to symbolize limitless wealth, now looked like a patient wrapped in medical traction. The sidewalks below were partially barricaded, disguised as routine landscaping upgrades. while security guards aggressively confiscated smartphones from tourists trying to film the buckled, braced exterior. The ultimate playground for the global elite had officially become a vertical hazard zone. Visual. Slow, ominous drone pullback from the tower at night, the building half swallowed by low desert fog. Text overlay. The cost of ambition. The bill has finally come due. By late 2025, the developers ran out of excuses. The temporary steel straps couldn't stop physics. A total facade replacement was ordered, forcing one of the most complex engineering interventions in modern history. Every single one of those 50,000 compromised glass panels had to be stripped away and replaced with heavy-duty, 2-inch thick reinforced composite glazing, anchored by a completely redesigned, flexible aluminum tracking system engineered to slide with the building's thermal expansion. SFX, heavy industrial machinery, rumble the cost, a staggering $380 million. Because the tower remained partially occupied by wealthy residents who refused to leave, crews had to work in high-risk, hyper-coordinated night shifts, peeling the failing skin off a 90-story giant while the city slept below. Today, the Al Qayan Imperial Tower still stands, its exterior finally stabilized. But its true legacy isn't architectural. It's a cautionary tale taught in structural engineering programs worldwide. It exposed the hidden dangers of the modern skyscraper boom, proving that when ultra-thin aesthetics and aggressive cost-cutting outrun material science, the results are catastrophic. As cities continue to race toward the clouds, the scarred facade of this Dubai icon remains a stark reminder. You can buy the land, you can design the dream, but you can never cheat physics. If you want to see more breakdowns of the world's biggest engineering failures, smash that subscribe button. Leave a comment below. Would you live on the 90th floor of a glass monolith? See you next week.